The Eight Immortals Travel East, Chapter 39.
What is the exact moment when an army of 10,000 highly disciplined, heavily armed soldiers just turns into a terrified, fleeing mob?
Oh, that's the ultimate question, isn't it?
Right. And, well, it is not when they realize they're outnumbered.
No, definitely not.
And it's not when they see a larger weapon on the field. It is literally when someone simply turns out the lights.
Which is, the absolute nightmare scenario for any commander.
Yeah.
You spend all this time, all these resources building an invincible war machine, only to discover that its greatest weakness has nothing to do with the strength of its armor.
Right. It's all about.
Exactly. It's all about how the parts talk to each other.
We are dissecting a brilliant and, frankly, terrifying tactical excerpt from Chapter 39 of the classic text, Journey to the East.
It is such a good section.
It really is. We are looking at a literal masterclass in battlefield strategy today, specifically the breaking of a massive military formation known as the Jade Emperor Array.
Yes.
But before we get into the traps and the arrows and all that, I need to clear something up because I strongly suspect I'm not the only one with this misconception.
Okay, what is it?
Well, when I read the word array in an ancient military context, my brain just automatically pictures, like, a neat rectangular block of guys holding spears in a field. Is that what we are dealing with here?
Not even close, no.
I figured.
Yeah, if you walk into this text picturing a simple line of soldiers, the subsequent slaughter isn't going to make any sense at all.
So what is it then?
An array, especially a named one like the Jade Emperor Array, was essentially a massive, moving geometric labyrinth made of human bodies.
Wow.
Imagine interlocking rings of infantry, rotating walls of shields, and hidden corridors that are specifically designed to funnel attackers into kill zones.
So it's not a wall, it's a trap.
Right. It is way less like a traditional battle line and much more like a gigantic carnivorous plant.
Oh man, a carnivorous plant.
Yeah. It's designed to look confusing from the outside, invite you in, and then completely crush you.
Okay, that paints a much, much more intimidating picture.
Yeah.
So let's set the stage for how our protagonists actually end up dealing with this meat grinder.
Good idea.
The text tells us that the military momentum has just shifted in a major way. The army we are following, which is led by strategist Zhong, has just successfully shattered a previous, totally separate obstacle called the White Tiger Array.
Right, so they are riding high.
Exactly. The wind is at their backs, morale is through the roof, and Zhong immediately sets his sights on the Jade Emperor Array. He just wants to keep pushing.
And we really have to analyze Zhong's psychological state here.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, military historians often talk about this thing called victory disease.
Victory disease.
Yeah. When you just pull off a massive win using a certain level of aggressive momentum, your brain kind of tricks you into thinking that sheer force of will can solve the next problem too.
Like you're invincible.
Exactly. You start looking for shortcuts because you feel like you can't lose.
Which perfectly explains his initial plan. Because honestly, when I first read Zhong's strategy, I assumed I was missing a page or something.
It's jarring, right?
It is. He looks at this unimaginably complex labyrinth of shields and spears, identifies the enemy commander, a figure named Li Shan Laomu, or Madame Dong, and basically says, let's just charge her.
Just rush the leader.
Yeah. He orders a multi-pronged assault, sends in his veteran commander Ling Po, along with the 8th and 9th sisters, right at the main hall with drums beating, and just tells them to grab the leader.
It's wild.
For a master strategist, isn't that incredibly, amateur? It sounds like playing a video game and just blindly rushing the boss.
It absolutely is amateurish, but honestly, it happens constantly in warfare and, well, even in business.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When you are riding high on momentum, you tend to reduce complex systems into single, easily digestible targets.
You simplify things too much.
Exactly. Zhong sees the linchpin, Madame Dong, and just completely ignores the ecosystem she operates within. He mistakes a single piece of the puzzle for the entire board.
And the enemy uses that exact blind spot against him.
All flawlessly.
The text details the trap springing just perfectly. An enemy soldier, Chunyan, waves a red flag. And on that signal, Madame Dong actually rides out from the safety of the labyrinth.
She shows herself.
Right. She meets the charging vanguard. They clash swords for a few rounds. And then she suddenly turns her horse and retreats back into the formation.
Right.
And the vanguard, sensing blood in the water, they just chase her.
The classic feigned retreat.
Yes. I see this constantly in competitive online gaming, actually. Players call it kiting.
Kiting, yeah.
You pretend you're weak, You pretend you're running away and you bait an overly eager opponent right out of their safe position. They get so greedy for the elimination that they completely forget their surroundings.
The psychology behind it is fascinating because it hijacks your prey drive.
Oh, I like that term. Prey drive.
Yeah, the vanguard isn't thinking strategically anymore. They are just chasing a fleeing target. But let's look at Zhong's failure here, because a true strategist would see the commander of a formidable array riding out to the absolute front line and immediately ask a question.
Like, why is she out here?
Exactly. Why is the most important piece on the board exposing herself? But Zhong never asked that question.
He just saw the prize.
Right. And because he didn't question the context, his veteran vanguard, Ling Po and the sisters, they pushed deep into the array.
Right into the carnivorous plant.
And the moment they crossed the threshold, the jaws snapped shut. The text says gongs and drums suddenly erupt from the enemy side. The walls of the labyrinth physically shift.
Just a terrifying image.
Enemy troops swarm in from all directions, and the vanguard is completely swallowed up, trapped right in the dead center of the formation.
Which brings us to a sequence that is just devastating to read. The vanguard is surrounded. Back at the command center, a secondary commander, Wang Yi, realizes what has happened. He's supposed to be the backup. So, hearing they're trapped, he urgently leads his own troops straight into the fray from the main hall to save them.
Yep.
Now, I want to pause here and defend Wang Yi for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
When I read this, I felt like he had no other choice. If your vanguard is trapped, you don't have time to sit back and, hold a committee meeting.
Sure.
You have to go in immediately, or they die. It seems to me like he made the only logical choice, and it was just terrible luck that he ran straight into the sights of the enemy general, Han Yanshu, who literally shoots him right through the heart.
I hear you, but I have to push back on the idea of luck entirely.
Really? You don't think it was just a bad break?
Not at all. In a highly structured engagement like this, what you are calling luck is actually an anticipatory trap.
Anticipatory? Wait, you mean Han Yanshu knew Wang Yi was coming?
Think about it.
Huh.
When an architect designs an encirclement trap, they don't just plan for the primary target they intend to swallow. They purposefully leave a very specific, incredibly dangerous void open, knowing exactly how the enemy's reinforcements will behave. Han Yanshu didn't just happen to be standing where the backup charged in.
He was waiting for him.
He was waiting there. The trap was designed for the backup just as much as the vanguard.
Wow. So the urgency was actually a weapon used against them.
Exactly. Urgency without a change in tactics is just panic.
That is a great way to put it.
This really highlights the fatal difference between taking action and merely reacting. Wang Yi saw a crisis and reacted emotionally. He fed his troops into a meat grinder that was specifically calibrated to receive them.
Because he didn't stop to think.
Right. Rushing to fix a mistake on the fly without stepping back to analyze the changed battlefield almost always compounds the disaster.
And the disaster is total. Wang Yi is dead. The rescue mission collapses completely. The surviving troops flee back to the command center to report the carnage, leaving strategist Zhong in absolute shock.
Complete devastation.
The momentum they had from the White Tiger array is just gone. They're looking down the barrel of a complete rout.
But this is the pivot point.
Yes.
This is where strategist Zhong finally earns his title.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't double down.
No, he doesn't send a third wave of guys to just bash their heads against the shields.
He finally stops looking at the enemy as a wall of flesh, and he starts looking at them as a system.
Right. He realizes that an array of this size has an infrastructure.
An
infrastructure can be sabotaged.
Exactly.
The text outlines his masterstroke here, and it's brilliant. He initiates a dual-pronged rescue. First, he sends in a heavy reinforcement, a fierce commander named Guiying, to essentially carve a path into the chaos.
The muscle.
But the genius is the second order. He simultaneously orders a stealth operative, Yang's seventh sister, to bypass the fighting entirely, sneak to the front of the enemy hall, and extinguish their red lantern.
Yes.
And the text specifically notes that the purpose of putting out this lantern is to ensure the enemy, quote, does not know how to adapt or change their formation.
That is the key right there.
I was trying to conceptualize how to explain this, and I keep coming back to a modern tech equivalent.
Let's hear it.
The first plan, rushing Madame Dong, was like trying to kick down the reinforced steel door of a server farm. It totally failed.
Yeah.
This new plan, it's like sending a guy to the alley out back to cut the fiber optic cables. Or, sneaking into a competitor's high-stakes tech presentation and just quietly unplugging their Wi-Fi router.
I love that.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal analogy because it gets to the absolute heart of how ancient, large-scale combat actually functioned.
How so?
Let's introduce a concept used in modern military theory. Have you ever heard of the OD loop?
ODA. Observe, Orient, Decide, Act, right?
Exactly, ODS. In any conflict, the side that can complete that cycle the fastest wins.
Okay, but how does a lantern fit into an OD loop?
Well, think about a single soldier deep inside the Jade Emperor array. Okay. It's loud, it's dusty, there is literally blood everywhere. That soldier cannot observe the battlefield. They have no idea what is happening 50 feet away.
They're just trying to stay alive.
Right, so they cannot orient themselves, and they certainly cannot make strategic decisions. Their entire reality, their entire ability to participate in that OD loop is outsourced to the visual and auditory signals from the command center.
Oh, I see. The flags, the gongs, and the red lantern.
Precisely. The red lantern wasn't just like a decorative light source. It was the central hub of their battlefield network. It signaled the shifts in that geometric labyrinth we talked about earlier.
So it's their Wi-Fi router.
Yes. By sending Yang's seventh sister to extinguish that lantern, strategist Zhong isn't just taking out a light. He is completely severing the enemy's ODA loop. He's inducing a tactical blackout.
Which sets up an absolutely blistering climax. The pacing of the text here is incredible. It all happens so fast.
It really accelerates.
So the two-pronged plan converges. The heavy reinforcement, Guiying, charges into the fray and actually manages to locate the enemy commander, Madame Dong, who is still locked in this critical combat, with the trapped vanguard, the 8th and 9th sisters.
Right in the thick of it.
Guiying draws her bow, fires a single precise arrow from her bowstring, and hits Madame Dong. She falls from her horse and dies on the spot.
The decapitation strike finally connects.
It does. And riding that momentum, Guiying uses the shock of that moment to scatter the surrounding troops and basically pulls the vanguard out of the center of the labyrinth.
An incredible rescue.
Yeah, they break free and they link up with Yang's seventh sister, who has just successfully smashed the red lantern.
Both objectives achieved.
Exactly. And this is where I really need your help unpacking the psychology, because the text delivers a massive curveball right here.
Oh, we know what you're going to say.
The enemy general, Han Yanshu, the guy who just masterminded the trap, the guy who easily killed Wang Yi earlier, he surveys the field.
Yeah.
He still has a massive numerical advantage. He still has thousands of soldiers in his array, but he sees that his leader is dead, and he sees that his signaling lantern is dark. And the text says he simply retreats without fighting.
Just packs it up.
Just like that. The Jade Emperor array is broken. Why does he run when he still has the bigger army?
Because, quite simply, it ceases to be an army the second that lantern goes out.
Wow.
Yeah. Han Yanshu's retreat isn't an act of cowardice at all. It is a cold mathematical calculation.
Explain that.
We talked about how the array is an interlocking machine, right?
The carnivorous plant.
Exactly. Machines require coordination. The moment Madame Dawn fell, the command hierarchy took a critical hit. But the fatal blow was the communication infrastructure.
The lantern.
Yes. Without that lantern, Han Yanshu has absolutely no way to transmit new orders to thousands of men who are suddenly facing a completely shifting battlefield.
He can't tell them what to do.
He can't tell them to close ranks. He can't tell them to pursue.
Because they can't see the signal. They're just a bunch of individuals standing in the dust.
Precisely. A massive army without a nervous system is actually a massive liability. The tight concentric rings of the array suddenly become a trap for his own men.
They just trample each other.
Exactly. Strategist Zhong proved the ultimate rule of asymmetric warfare here.
Right.
You don't have to destroy the armor if you can paralyze the nervous system.
Paralyze the nervous system. Man, that is a chilling way to phrase it, and it totally reframes how we look at obstacles.
It really does.